welcome Moses onto Not Your Everyday podcast. Thank you for joining. Really am grateful for you to join to be on the show. I've been trying to get you for a long time, and I'm glad we were able to do it. So I don't want to give them information about who you are, rather you do it yourself. So I'm going to start off with as in tell us your life story in 1 minute as a game. I usually do that with most of my guests. As you know, the podcast is about growth moments, the moments that you decided to level up. You as a professional footballer, you've done that many times, and you've been playing football for a long time, and you've had a lot of setbacks and a lot of positive moments and inspirational moments. So that's why I brought you on, to inspire people on the people that listen to my show. So that's why I thought to get you on. So just to start the podcast, in 1 minute as a game, and I've got a timer here as well. Tell us your life story. All right, so I'll start the timer in 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, I'm Moses Odubajo. I'm a professional footballer, currently playing at Sheffield Wednesday. I'm going to take you back into time now. Starting when I was 10 years old, I took interest to the sport. I played around with my brothers at the local five-a-side pitch every week. Then I was signed to my first grassroots team, which was called Elms FC back then. I played there for a couple of years. During secondary school, I was scouted by Millwall. I had a 6-week trial. After I think it was 3 weeks, my mum passed away, so I stopped playing, packed it in for at least a year. Funny enough, I ran into the coach in the high street. I was lucky enough to get another trial. Fast forwarded on. I stayed with Millwall for a year. Unfortunately, I didn't get a scholarship. I moved to Leighton Orient, where then I went on to make over 100 appearances. Then I was sold for £1 million to Brentford FC. I stayed at Brentford for 1 year. In that year, I was called up to England under-20 national team to represent my country. After England, I was bought by Brentford for 3.5 million. Steve Bruce was the manager at the time. I think I played over 45, 50 games in that season. After that, we got promoted to the Premier League, which I then suffered 3 major injuries to my knee, which kept me out of football for 2 years. Then after that, I went back to Brentford, stayed there for a year. And then my old manager, Steve Bruce, brought me to Sheffield Wednesday. And here I am today. Time?
Okay, cool. So that was, let's check the timer. That was 1 minute 50 seconds. But that's fine though. That's fine because you basically said all the highlights, which is good, and people now know a bit about you, which is great. But if I was to kind of drill down to like your proudest moments, we'll get into some of your earlier childhood and your career and stuff like that. But if I was to kind of pick, well, if you were to pick your proudest moment, what would it be so far, being 27 years old?
I got 2. Is that
okay?
Go on.
Yeah.
The first would probably be getting promoted to the Premier League. I think it's any young footballer's dream. I think every kid aspires to play in the Premier League, even if it's kids born in this country or born elsewhere. Like, this is the league that everyone seems to be drawn to, because you could argue and say it's probably one of the best leagues in the world. The publicity is the highest it's probably ever been for the sport in this country. You're in your hometown, even if people come from abroad, they literally travel miles. We have Brazil, like in the Premier League now, we have Brazilians, we have the whole of Europe, we have people from Africa, with people from America playing. So I feel like for me, that was probably one of the biggest ones to finally reach the best league in the world, and doing it probably the best way possible, which is going to Wembley. A lovely day out, your family's there. You don't, obviously in the Championship, you don't play at Wembley every week, so going to a stadium like that where the national team play, to go and win there in front of your family, in front of everyone. I think it's the most expensive game in football. I think it's like 190 or something million pounds is made in that game, and to win there obviously is a dream come true. And then my second one is I'd say this season, probably just overcoming terrible injury, and feeling like myself again, because I think not many people understand and realise how tough injuries are. So not to go into it too much, I know you're probably going to ask me questions about that, but I think just overcoming overcoming a long-term injury that many wouldn't have come back from. So those are the two.
Yeah, so let's get into that then, because we can talk about other stuff, but because you touched on it, tell us about the injury. How did it happen? When did it happen? And then we'll go on to like mental health. How did it affect you? You know, what was the situation at that time?
Yeah, gonna have to wrap my brain now. Might have been summer 2016. After we just got promoted, was back in pre-season. We just came back from Portugal. Like, the camp was buzzing. I felt the best I've ever felt. Obviously, going into a new season, going into the Premier League, it's like I said, it's any kid's dream. So I was raring to go. We played Grimsby on the Saturday. I think it was just before my birthday. I'll never forget. 5 minutes into the game of that, I think the guy I was playing against, he took a big touch, so the ball's come into my view. So I've tried to step across him, and it's literally just a freak injury. He's ran into me, and I just never forget that my leg just literally was stuck into the ground, but my kneecap literally moved, and then I looked down, and I could see my kneecap to the right side of like my leg, but whereas it should stay center. So anyway, I bent my leg, straightened it, and then after a while it kind of shifted back into place. But I couldn't continue, obviously. So then I walked off the pitch. So I just thought, you know what, I've had a lot of contact injuries in my time, so this is just going to be another one of those. So then I got into the shower, I came out, and my knee was like the size of a balloon. So I had a scan, and then it showed that I dislocated. So you have a ligament that connects around your kneecap to the inside of your knee, so the inside of your leg, sorry. And it showed that I dislocated. So that ligament had basically had broke, so it stopped doing its job, which it basically stops the kneecap from moving out of position. So basically, I damaged that ligament, and it needed to be operated on. So then that was my 25th, maybe 24th. That was one of my birthdays ruined anyway. So I had to have an operation the day before my birthday. And I remember when I got discharged, the nurse was like, make sure you take medicine, because like the pain, it will creep up on you without you even realizing. So I never forget, the night of my birthday, I was just in bed, and my knee had a heartbeat. And I was just like, what is going on here? So I've taken the tablets thinking they'll kick in straight away. It's taken about 2 hours. So 2 hours into my birthday, I'm sitting there, big brace on my leg, couldn't bend my knee, thinking like, is this life? So we move on. I think it was 3 months into my rehab. I'm flying through stuff. I'm back on the road. I feel good. It didn't really affect me. It didn't seem real that I had surgery on my knee. So I'm doing things that you'd probably do maybe 4 or 5 months down the line. I'm doing these 3 months into my rehab journey. It's no one's fault. I felt fine, and the physios could see I was fine. So I've gone to cross a ball, and I've slipped. My right leg slipped, and it's given way. And then when it gave way, it's like I was stuck in one position, and I looked down. I could see that there was like a hole in the middle of my kneecap, and I was just like, "This, like, what is going on? Like, how has this happened from me crossing the ball?" So I put my finger in my knee, and it's just like sunk down and down. I'm like, why is it sinking? Like the kneecap my finger shouldn't be able to move. So then it turns out that during that, when I slipped, in the process, I had fractured my kneecap. So I'd fractured it into basically 2 pieces. And I feel like that was like the cherry. That was like the cherry on top. I think everything just sunk in, then that this isn't as plain sailing, as smooth as I thought it was going to be. And there was, I think, Robert Snodgrass at the time, there was Mo Diame who had knee injuries, and they were saying to me when I was before the second injury, that like, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be like, it's not all just going to be an uphill battle and you're going to get there. Like, there's going to be times when you're tested, and this was obviously another test. So after we had another successful operation, I went back to do my rehab again, and now I'm trying to push to basically play in the Premier League, because I can, like, my dream, I could just see it slipping from in between my fingers, you know. So I remember now, I think this is the time when, like, it's starting to just grind, like slowly grind. I couldn't drive again. My girlfriend at the time, she was going to work. So I'm in the house alone. And like, if someone knocks on the door and I'm upstairs, I have to pop my head out the window and say, give me 2 or 3 minutes. I need to get my crutches together. There were days obviously waking up and thinking, oh, no, I don't even want to leave the bedroom. Like, I'd go into training and it was just like, I'm in the same place that I felt like I've been in for years. Like, the players would come in, do their gym and go home, or do their gym and go onto the field. Whereas I'm in the gym, watching them leave, watching them come back with banter, what happened in training, and it's like you don't feel part of it. And then it just, you do things to try and like take your mind off of, I would call it probably depression at the time. Like, you do things to try and take your mind off of it, because you spiral into into a place where you kind of go into survival mode, but not realizing at the time that not realizing that I was depressed at the time, right? Because I was in survival mode and I was just kind of just doing what I needed to do to try and stay sane. So I'm trying to rush back now, because I could see that we're around the bottom of the table, so it's going to be hard. And I think it was April, so I think there was a month left. So I'm pushing hard, fighting hard. Rehab was going well, and it was one day I never forget. Like, I went to kick a ball, I went to run after it, and my knee just kind of gave way again, and the kneecap refractured, and words can't even. The feeling that I had, I think, when it refractured was just like someone basically just watched me climb literally get to the top of a mountain and then just pushed me back down. So I obviously had to undergo another surgery, which then saw me miss a full season. And then to top it off, Hull City got relegated at the time. So I felt like there was nothing I could have ever done to help the boys. So then the surgeon said to me, look, I don't want you to do nothing until September. So I had a whole summer of basically just letting my knee heal. So my knee I was in a brace and it was locked straight. So I literally just had to let my kneecap heal. So from July, August, so 3 months was literally me just doing nothing, letting the bone heal. So then now obviously Hull are relegated back in the Championship. And this time, the doctors, the physios, they all agreed that we're going to take it ultra slow. So for me now, that's not helping my depression, because I've missed one whole season of football. And prior to these injuries, I've never had a muscle injury or a bone injury ever. So missing a whole season, and then now hearing that it's already September, and they're saying that we're going to take it ultra slow, means that I'm not looking at getting onto the field until around January, February times. And I'm in the last year of my contract. These things are nibbling away. Like, it's like, this is my livelihood, you know, like this is my dream, and it's like I'm putting it in someone else's hands, and that's something that just made me feel so uneasy at the time. So throughout this stage, I think we've gone to see various people, in terms of physios, who helped along the way. And then during that period when I could start to see the small light at the end of the tunnel, I'm getting more mobile. And then it was like another kick in the teeth. Like, I'm starting to pick up muscle injuries because my muscles weren't used to like working for so long. And then finally, when I started being able to go out on the pitch, my muscles would just be like, Mo, this is too much. And then I would get little muscle injuries that would push my rehab back another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks. And it was just like, for me mentally, it was just like, how much more can I, you know what I mean? How much more can I physically and mentally take? So then when I got to, I think it was, could it have been February, March? When I got to around March, I made my first, was it March? It could have been March. In March was when the first time I was able to join in with the team. And I think I counted, it was like 200 and something days later. And just to step back on that pitch, just to train, not even play a game, bro, just to train. The smile I had on my face all training session, even though I probably was the worst trainer on the pitch, it just made me realize that, like, what I went through, all of that just seemed so worth it, just to feel that feeling of being on the training pitch and just being around the boys. And I think after that, I played a reserve game with the under-23s. I played an hour in that game, and then I slowly built up the minutes. But by the time I built up the minutes, the season had finished. So then obviously now that was another kind of small hurdle on my journey, because it was like, okay, I've not played for 2 years and now my contract's up. So Hull City offered me another contract, and I turned it down because I wanted a fresh start, you know, just mentally as well, because I just felt like for the past 2 years, it'd been like a tough road. And as we go on later, I'll explain a little bit more on that side when I go to seek help finally. But I just felt like, obviously, I wanted a clean slate. And then obviously that's when I moved to Brentford, and had a really good season there. And then I'm going to answer the question now. And during that season, a lot of things weren't going well off the pitch in terms of my relationship with my girlfriend, which led me to seek professional help. And then during that time is when I opened up the biggest can of worms ever, and it took me back to my injury, and it took me back to dealing with the passing of my mum, and all these things. Little did I know were all linked in the same bubble, of how people deal with situations. And I was always brought up kind of to go into survival mode. So in any situation, it was just how me and my brothers dealt with things. Like we were taught to just do what you need to do to get by, and when you're on the other side, people will ask you, "Oh, how did you do that?" And we turn around and be like, "We don't know." Like it's that sort of instinct. It's like if you see danger, if there's a house on fire or something, someone would run in there and save someone and be a hero, and no one would ask them how they did it and what was going through their mind. They went into that, they tapped into that zone. But yeah, I feel like I've gone a long-winded route, but I feel like the professional help, the professional help, obviously it helped me a lot, because it opened up a lot of things and a lot of issues that I didn't deal with at the time, and led me to being depressed for probably a long part of 2 years.
So thanks for that, and thanks for being open, Moses. I appreciate that. So how did you recover from that therapy? So what did it do for you after you seeked help? How did that affect you, and then how did it help you build your relationship?
I think at first it was tough, because you always see like therapists on like film. You always see them in films and stuff, and you're just like, oh, I ain't never gonna go to one of it, like to a shrink to speak out. I don't want people knowing about my business. But I think after 2 or 3 sessions, it was slowly starting to sink in that there were issues in my life that needed to be spoke about, and they needed to be. It was like she used to say, it was like I had like a carpet, and I just used to stick stuff underneath it, and just hope that over time they would just go away. But what I was doing, I was just building that carpet up to the point where the stuff would start coming out. But no, it was good. I think it made me just realize that not even as a guy, but it just made me realize that you don't always have to, everything doesn't always have to be all right. Like, you can speak to someone about stuff, because when you speak to people about it, and especially people you don't know, it just lifts the weight off your shoulders. And it was a tough period. Like, there were times when obviously I didn't want to open up, and she had to probe at things. But it's one of those things that I feel like if anyone who's watching this has gone through or is going through things, I think it's probably the best way to deal with it. And it's probably the safest way to deal with it, because she knew what the therapist that we went to, she knew what she was good at her job. And for me, it was like I didn't even realize that I'm opening up and showing her my emotions, and basically showing my cards. And like, she's asking me questions that probably weren't relevant to the topic that we had gone there to resolve. But throughout the questions she's asking me, I'm opening and showing my cards so she can see how I am as a person. And then when she could see that, it made me realize that things that I need to change, and things that every day till this day that I still do to myself to make sure that I don't end up in a situation where I do feel depressed.
Yeah, amazing. And look at you now, like, obviously your relationship has gone from strength to strength. You now got engaged. Congrats. Things are on the up, and it's just looking really positive. So how have you found, obviously now that we're in lockdown and you've been playing football during lockdown on and off, and how's that whole experience been?
It's probably been, like, I enjoy it. Like, I just feel like now that I'm injury free, any time there's a game, even if it is relentless, I want to be involved. I want to play, and I'm relishing the opportunity, because to say 2 years ago, I would have dreamt to have been able to play 2 minutes of a football match. But now I know obviously the games are coming in quick and fast, and yeah, there's no crowd, but for me it's still a game, and there are fans technically still watching through streaming and online and stuff. So I'm just relishing it, and just enjoying the thing that I love doing doing the most, which is playing football.
Cool. That's great. So tell the people about what's it like being a professional footballer, like playing with, the best in the leagues. You've played international as well. You played for England on the 20s. You've obviously played for Hull, Sheffield, uh, Sheffield Wednesday, Leighton Orient, Brentford. Like, what's it like? What do people don't see when playing football?
I think I don't see that we're human beings. Like we're no different to people who watch the sport. Like we have emotions as well. I feel like sometimes fans think that because a player's not playing well means that he doesn't care. Like I don't think any player goes on the pitch and says to themselves, "Today I'm gonna play crap. I'm gonna foul, or today I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z." Like it doesn't work like that. I think every player goes in that pitch wanting to like be proud of themselves. Like they want their family to be proud of them. I think they go out onto that pitch and they want to excite, like they want to entertain, because we're entertainers at the end of the day, and they want to play well. And I feel like a lot of people who watch it from the outside just feel like, yeah, oh, I want to be a footballer. Like they get it easy. They train. They're at home by 2 o'clock every day. Life's easy, but along with that side of the game, there's also the other side where you might not be in a manager's plans, and you might be third or fourth choice, and you've got someone telling you you're not good enough. And like I said, we're all human at the end of the day. And imagine someone turning around to you and telling you you're not good enough at doing something. How's that like? How's that going to make you feel? And it's just, I feel like at times, like with football, the highs they're very, very, very high, and and also the lows could be beneath the surface. So it's a tough profession to be in, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But it goes hand in hand. You have to you can't take the highs too high, and you can't take the lows too low.
Yeah, and how do you deal with the pressure of being a footballer?
You know,
There's, as you said, there's competition, there's public opinion, there's social media, there's injuries. How do you deal with all the pressure?
me personally, I love the pressure. I feel like it's when that brings the best out of me. When it's like I said, kind of earlier, about that survival mode, like instinct, where you just do things off of instinct, and your brain doesn't have as much time to think about, like in certain situations where you can go out there and just perform. Like it's when you're playing in the big games, when you're playing in the finals, you're playing against the big teams. Not even just the big teams, but just you're playing against good opposition. Like for me, I relish the opportunity, and there's nothing more that I don't enjoy anything else than going out there and just knowing that, okay, the pressure's on, and this is when I need to step up. And it's something that I think most footballers can do, and the best in the world, they do that every week consistently for 20, 15, whatever years it is that they play for. So I personally, I enjoy it.
And just how do you become a better player? Just this is just a random question I've got. Like, because I watch documentaries about footballers, and you see the greats, and they're always working late. They're always training harder than everybody else, staying later. What is your technique? Do you watch documentaries? Like, do you just is it a mental game for you? How do you make sure you're becoming better every game?
Yeah, I feel like mine was more mental. I just feel like every game I do kind of brain endurance training at the minute, which is helping. I talk to myself a lot during the game, before the game. I visualize before games. I work on my opponent throughout the week, so who I'm going up against. So it's just little percentages like that I feel just kind of helps me get a better edge, should I say, before the game's even kicked off. Things can happen in a game, don't get me wrong. But I feel like with those little percentages, it puts you in the driving seat. And then I vouch for myself technically to play well, you know. But as long as I know that I'm going into a game, knowing about my opposition in my head, knowing that today I visualized what I'm going to do well, and then executing that, and then also if things aren't going as well as they can be, making sure that mentally I stay focused in the job and make sure that our team wins. And if we don't win, make sure we don't lose.
Yeah. So when did you realize, we're going to go back a bit into you breaking into football, because there's a lot of people, I guess, watching who either wanted to be a footballer or is trying to be a footballer. Two questions on that. One is, when did you realize you were good enough to play professional football? And then I'll ask the second question later.
That's a funny question, you know, because I played from around the age of 9, 10 to probably 16, just for fun. Like, I played Sunday league, grassroots as they call it. I did all of that. I was just enjoying every Sunday, waking up, putting the kit on, going out playing. Like, it was just enjoyable. Like, I was playing with my friends from home. Moved to secondary school. I got two friends into the same team that I was playing in. And then one obviously has gone on now to become one of my best friends. So we just used to play for fun. And it was only up until just before leaving school that everyone was saying to me, you know, you're talented. And I'm like, huh? I was always just like, yeah, like, I don't mind football, but it's not something that I thought. Like, when I was younger, I thought I'm going to be a professional one day. I'm going to be, I don't know, Alan Shearer or Robbie Fowler. I just thought, I'm just enjoying it, see where the journey takes me. And then when I signed at Leyton Orient, my scholarship, which was 2 years, during those 2 years, it only realistically hit home. So what age is that? 17. So yeah, so it only realistically hit home that I've actually got a chance here. It was probably when I just turned 17. Well, just before I was turning 18, that's when it hit home that I've actually got a good chance here of making it, and I just need to believe. And then from there, it was just the senior pros at the time who were at Leyton Orient. Every day, they just kept pushing me to. They were just demanding that my standard never dropped, and it got to a point where I was producing the levels of efforts that senior pros were producing, but the difference was I was 17, 18, and these guys were 28, 20, 29, 30. And it got to a point where the first team manager at the time threw me in. And then obviously that's probably one of your other questions, but that's when I went to go on and score my first goal.
Yeah, so talk to us about that. Like, was that your breakthrough goal?
I think it was just probably the breakthrough that I needed, man, because back then when you used to sign a scholarship, it's not the blueprint that everyone has of being a professional footballer, where you have the fancy wash bag and you got a nice car and you got the blue tick. You got the blue tick on Twitter back then, and you leave the ground and fans are asking for signatures, and it wasn't that. Like, when you sign a scholar, you're cleaning up after the first team. You make sure the balls are pumped. You make sure the goals are pushed to where they need to be pushed to. You're picking up the cones. You're laying out the cones. If your job's not done, you get a fine. Back then I was living in South East London, so I'm waking up at 6 a.m, getting on the train, public transport, and everyone obviously thinks, he's made it. But I'm getting on the public transport to Lewisham DLR station, getting on the DLR, then getting on the Central Line. So it's not the blueprint that everyone thinks of. But I tell you what, it shapes you, and it just makes you more appreciative to when that day comes, like it did for me, where Russell Slade obviously handed me my first start, which is funny because I didn't think I was going to play. To the night before, I was up till about midnight, till about probably midnight, chatting, like enjoying my friends, because it was the last game of the season. So my friends came round, and I just thought it was going to be another game where I was on the bench. So I got to the ground, and he flipped over the team sheet, and I just saw my name there, and I was like,
Jeez.
and like my family was used to come to games, just hoping that I'd get 2 or 3 minutes at the end of the game. But this time, obviously, I was starting. So then the senior pros at the time was just like, look, do what you've been doing in training, just believe in yourself. Like, when you're in form, no one in this division can stop you. So the game kicked off. I just eased myself into the game. And I think the ball dropped down to me before half-time. I just took the ball, started running. And before I knew it, things just started opening up, and I could see the goal. And I could just see the stars. And I just thought, if my technique's right, it's going to go on target at least. And I shot, and by the time I looked up, I could just hear a roar. And then the next thing I know, I was just getting bombarded by everyone. And I remember my Twitter mentions were going through the roof. I remember I recorded the Football League show back then, just to make sure I could see the goal, listen to how they pronounce my surname, the commentators. But no, I think that goal set me. It put me in the door, and it showed the manager that I'm ready to make the step from being a kid to being an adult.
Yeah, that's so sick, man. Like, and even just like, it's just what dreams are made of. Like, I still remember the goal as well. Like, I think it's on YouTube now. I think it's on YouTube. Yeah, and that whole thing about like pronouncing our surnames, like, trust me, I get it as well. Like, in the corporate world, is the same thing. But what variations do you get, just out of interest? Because
I get loads. I got Odubajo one time. That was Paul Merson on Sky. Odubajo. I get or people just go like they don't even know how to say it. Yeah, bro, there's so many. There actually is.
yeah, trust me, I feel you. Okay, cool. So we're gonna kind of take it to another stage or point in your life, because you've got so many. The thing about what I love about your career so far is just that you've always risen above the challenge. You've had setbacks, and then you've always came back. You're like a comeback kid. That's the way I describe you, innit? And another comeback you did was when your mum passed away. So talk to us about that and how it affected you, and yeah, how did it affect you?
Probably at the time, I don't think. Now looking back, I know it affected me a lot, but at the time, it didn't feel real. Like, it just felt like I was watching someone else's film through my own body. So I was like, she's gonna come back. Like, this has got to be banter. It was a strange time, because we never let anything get to us. We, as in me and my brothers, we kind of just rode. We just sailed the ship. Like, in terms of, we knew it was going to be tight. There were tough times during those years, but it just seemed like there was never any time to sit down and just talk and think and ask how we're going to get through this. Like, we never ever, like, even thinking about it now, we never ever used to sit down and be like, our mom's just died, like, are you okay? Like, how are you feeling today? It was always just, we could tell each other we're feeling, but we knew there was no time to sit down and mope about it, because that's not gonna change anything. And it almost kind of like was our motivation, I think, do well and to better ourselves, and just to think how proud she would have been, because she raised us as kids who will do everything they can do, no matter who tells them what. Like, you guys are going to do it, and that's how she was. And I feel like when she did pass, it kind of motivated us in a way of not even really speaking about it, but just to make sure you guys get it done. And don't get me wrong, when I look back, like I said, when I look back at it now, we probably should have spoke to someone. And if anyone is going through that, I would advise you highly to speak to someone, let people know how you're feeling. Like, don't bottle up your emotions, because we're probably one family in a lifetime who are able to be on the other side and get through it, you know what I mean? But it's, when I think about it now, it's still crazy how we got through, I think it was just under a year on my brother's job seekers allowance. And it's it's little things like that, in terms of putting heat in, making sure there's heating, making sure there's water, make sure there's electric, make sure there's food in the flat. All these things, all these boxes were ticked. And even if they weren't, we'd make sure that they were. And if not, we had people around us who always offered and always helped. And they're still around us. They're still around us today.
Yeah, it's crazy. And like, you've now become an ambassador for malaria, right? How did that come about?
Yeah, so I told my story to the Whole Daily Mail, I think it was, when I signed at Hull. And I just received so many messages, just about how much resilience I have, and it was just overwhelming, I think. And one of them was Malaria No More UK. They got in touch with the club and just said that we would like to speak with me. And the minute they got in touch, I just said, you know what, like, if I'm able to help a family by just raising awareness, then why not? Because I like, my Twitter followers, they're quite a lot. Like, I think it's like around 18,000 I have. So I just thought, if I can push it on that platform, if someone retweets it, that's to another 1,000 of followers, then, and so on, because we know how powerful social media is. So they got in touch and asked me to do an interview. I did the interview, and then when I heard what the charity was about and what they're doing, and some of the facts that they told me about malaria, let alone Africa, let alone, sorry, Nigeria, but just Africa in general, it was astonishing. So I was just like, look, if I can raise awareness through my platform, then why not? And then I was invited to a summit. What was this? I can't remember what year it was. 2018, maybe? 2018, 2017, where I met Charlie Webster. She was one who contracted malaria in Brazil. She was cycling. Well, anyway, she contracted it in Brazil, and she was on the life support. And her mum flew out basically to say her goodbyes, because they were going to turn off the machine. And I think one doctor asked, like, had they tested her for malaria? And it turned out that obviously she had contracted it over there. So then I met 3 or 4 ambassadors who had incredible stories about the disease. And then since then, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna pledge this with my heart to try and bring an end towards this dangerous and very, very, very old disease.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible that you've taken that on as your cause, because as you can see now, like in 2020, we've had, like, just choosing one example, Marcus Rashford, who's taken on the baton of food poverty for young kids and children in school, and he's taken that to the government, and he's written letters, he's campaigned, and he's been able to create U-turns from the government, and been able to feed like over 1 million kids during non-school term times and during holidays and stuff. And it's great that we're seeing footballers taking on social causes, and I think we should do more of that. So I definitely, appreciate you for that, and I think it's really good that you're involved, because it's quite easy not to be detached, just focus on your football, just as long as you're doing well and playing, like scoring goals or winning games, that that's what they expect from you. But when you go the extra mile, you've got the platform, you've got the responsibility. It's other people look to that and want to replicate that as well. Young footballers and people do appreciate it because of your platform. So yeah, it's amazing. So well, obviously Tommy is also a footballer, your brother. So how does that dynamic play out in the household? Like, you both playing football, different levels. So what's it like?
No, I think it's motivation. I think Tom's obviously coming towards the end of his career. He's playing non-league at the minute. But when he was a lot younger, in terms of 17, 18, it was cool because we can go to the field together in the summer. We can help each other improve technically, fitness wise. We used to run together in the summers. It just helped a lot. It just seemed like we both had that personal trainer that obviously everyone probably needs, like that little bit of motivation to make you feel like, okay, I'm not going to just slow down because my heart's telling me to slow down. I'm going to push that extra mile. And I feel like it was motivation on both sides. And when obviously he started seeing me do well, that motivated him to do better. And if anything, he's probably helped a lot because he understands the game. Like, everyone feels like they're a footballer when they watch a football match. My girlfriend, my fiance does. When I come home, she tells me, I should have done this, I should have done that. But when I call Tom and I say, do you watch the games? Like, yeah. And when he speaks to me, it's like, okay, this is coming from someone who has played it, so who understands. And I feel like that side is very important because obviously there are a lot of people who claim they can play football from just watching it from a TV. So if anything, for me, it's motivated me, and it's motivated him as well.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's excellent. Okay, what advice would you give your younger self?
I think I'd say to myself, don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough. I feel like it's a game full of opinions. You can't let someone's opinion affect how you perform daily. I'm talking in terms of fans, managers, even teammates. Because you might go to some teams where some teammates ain't having you, and unfortunately, this is how it is. You know what I mean? Like, and if the teammates ain't having you, they're not really going to try and pass you the ball as much as they can. And it's sad, but it's the game. On top of that, I'd say don't take the highs. Like I said earlier, the highs will come, the lows will come. But I feel like as long as you stay in the middle, you'll be fine.
Cool. Couple questions. Best player you've played with?
I get asked this a lot, Probably Tom Huddleston. I appreciate when someone can just strike a ball like so cleanly with both feet. It's rare nowadays where you find someone who can kick the ball with their weaker foot just as good as they can kick it with their stronger. And for me, his technique was incredible. Like, there'll be times where he would never give the ball away in training, and then it hit the ball 60, 50 yards, and the ball would just go straight to the person's feet. It was just effortless. And for me, he was just the all-rounded perfect player.
Yeah, Tom Hodgson is sick though. I remember he always does scores from long distances, doesn't he? Um, so last couple of questions. So you played for England. What was that like? Like international, like traveling with the boys, playing for your country. What's that experience like?
When I got the when I was told, I was just overwhelmed. I was like, wow, like this is all happening so quick. Like, I just been bought for £1 million. I just moved from Southeast London to West London. Like, I just felt like the world was just moving, and I was just like, wow, like I'm playing with the best kids in the country, like around my age group. Like this is crazy. Then I think the minute I got there and I started training and settled in, it didn't feel no different to playing in the park with my friends, and obviously representing England. The kit, the kit said it all. Like the training stuff. Like walking around, I'm looking down. I'm like, I've got the England badge on my top. And then I was chosen to represent England in one of the, like it's a big tournament for kids. Like, it's called the Toulon tournament. So it happens in France every couple of years. A lot of big names have played at that tournament. So obviously to represent England there as well, I think that was when I was like, this is like I'm playing against kids from different countries who are the best in their country, and France had been the winners of it for years. I think Presnel Kimpembe was in the French team. I think Kingsley Coman might have been. I'm not too sure now. There was a guy who was at Bayern Munich now, or who was at Bayern Munich. He represented USA. There's a lot of big talents who have played at that tournament, and I felt like I need to go there and showcase what I can do. And I think we finished fourth. But no, it's always nice to represent your country, at any level. And that show is that's a proud moment for me.
Yeah. And then there was a thing about you going, like, representing Nigeria as well. What happened there in the end?
I just think that with the smaller countries, it's not as straightforward as it is with the bigger countries. There wasn't no proper contact from the Nigerian FA, which at the time I was hoping for, because obviously that's where my parents are from. That's where our parents are from. Because it'd be nice to obviously represent the motherland. But unfortunately, at the time, there wasn't concrete contacts from the FA to basically ask for my representation. So I feel like it's a thing that door's still never closed. If the opportunity comes up and it's concrete, then I'll happily represent.
Sick. So you obviously play right back. Did you always see yourself playing right back or right wing, or what were you? Do you think you were a striker at one point?
No, you know what? I was converted by one of my old managers, Mark Warburton. I signed at Brentford I signed wearing a number 10 shirt as a right winger, because at Leyton Orient I was a right winger. And then I think there was an injury, so I had to fill in at right back one game. And I had a good game. Like I can't remember who we played against. Played against a strong team, and I had a strong game. So then the right back was injured. I think he missed 3 or 4 games, so I had to fill in. So then when he came back to fitness, I went back to right wing, and it wasn't happening for me. The chances on goals dried up. The crosses, the stats, should I say, the stats weren't really as good as they were when I was playing further back in right back, which surprised me, because I was arguing with the manager every week, like I don't want to play right back, I want to play right wing, like you need to put me there. So he said, okay, come to see me after training. So I sat down, he had a big spreadsheet, and it basically had graphs, and it was like a comparison from when I was playing right back and right wing, and each graph, like the gap between each marker was like that from when I'm playing at right wing to when I'm playing at right back. So I had total involvements in play, total crosses, total shots, total attacks, and the right back just topped everything on all aspects. And I literally didn't have a leg to stand on. And I left that meeting like, I'm a right back now. I can't argue. And then obviously you learn on the go as the games go on. And then during that, there were times when after training I'd work on positioning, when the ball's on that side, where do I need to be? And then obviously as the games went on, it kind of becomes natural to you, and it's something that you just get used to. And then since then I ain't looked back.
Amazing. Final question. So you might get this a lot as well. What's life after football looking like for you? Have you thought about it? Have you got any plans? What does it look like?
I don't really have that many plans, to be honest, at the minute. I know I want to stay in the game. I feel like I want to try and use my voice, use my story, use my journey to try and help the upcoming talents. Just not even like as a guidance, but if it was something like working in a club as like in a role where players can come and talk to you, and you can kind of, I don't know what the role would be. As players can come and talk to you, or if it would be for me going into other clubs and speaking to players. But I've not really looked into it into depth. I like my fashion a lot, so that would be something nice to do when the time's right. But I feel like at the minute now I'm just enjoying the time that I can get on the pitch, and hopefully get back to the Premier League.
Yeah, that's the goal, man. Like, I think you'd say maybe it's like a mentor kind of role with the like young footballers, or just even some like almost like a therapist to some degree. But obviously that's more kind of qualified. But yeah, the goal at the moment is playing footballs, getting back to the Prem, right? I imagine, and like just living that lifestyle again. And I'm wishing you all the success, and praying for you as well to get back there as well, and be playing amongst the best. And obviously you already know, obviously as a cousin, I'm mad proud of you. I think you're doing amazing. Comeback kid, and you know everything. Every time you play, like, I'm always proud of you as well. And I just want you to keep going from success to success and strength to strength, and obviously just keep working hard. You know, I feel like you've already got all the skills you need to be a great footballer, and you're currently doing that anyway. And you're always happy as well, because you've been through the trials and you've been through the tribulations as well. So congrats, man. And yeah, thank you for being on the podcast. Any final comments you want to share, you want to make?
No, I just want to say, man, it's been a pleasure talking obviously with you. I feel like no matter how many times I talk about my journey and my story, like the feeling never changes, that everything I've just said to me doesn't still feel like I've gone through all of that, and it just shows how far that I've come, and it's always a blessing, you know, and that will always motivate me to want to do more until I reach where I want to reach, which is obviously the Premier League. So I just want to say thanks, and obviously everyone who's listening and who's watching, I appreciate it.
Sick, man. Like, it's inspirational, bro. Like, a lot of people would love to be in your position, and like, you're one of few as well. So, you know, it's an honor to be playing at that level as well.